Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm a big fan of your work.
Appreciate that.
I think that, you know, we as a country need people that are trendsetters, that are stepping outside the norm, right? That are willing to, you know, stand on the proverbial soapbox and stand up for what we believe in. So I really applaud you for especially the stuff you're doing with the VA and the things in the food industry. So I have a couple things that I think our tribe would have, you know, be really passionate about knowing, especially around food. You know, we're in the chemical industry, and I want to get to that in a second, but we're also passionate about not only what you put on our body, but what we put in our body, right? So talk a little bit, help our tribe understand like what reform is happening on the Hill, right? As far as food reform, you know, transparency on labels in the food industry, let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to do transparency with things like GMO, for example, is a bill, but it's not really getting anywhere. We're promoting, you know, how to get healthy food into our schools, which is a big component of, you know, making sure the schools, there's a salad bar in every school, for example, and schools can afford and have access to equipment, durable equipment that they would need to really build out a food system where they're actually cooking food in the school as opposed to just kind of bringing it in. And then Congressman Earl Blumenauer from Oregon and I are pushing a new type of farm bill, which kind of oversees and funds our ag policy, our agricultural policy, because right now we're subsidizing crops, wheat, soy, corn, that go into almost all of the highly processed foods that we're eating. And we've seen, since we've been doing this the past 30 or 40 years, that, you know, the high rates of diabetes. Now everybody in the country has either diabetes or pre-diabetes. We're spending money on, you know, billions and billions of dollars on cancer and hypertension and diabetes, obviously, obesity, all of these things. And then we subsidize the crop, the farmers to grow these food. People get sick, and then we subsidize the health care to take care of the people who get sick because it's
a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's a terrible cycle, and it's really bad for the taxpayer, and it's really bad for productivity. It's really bad for the healthcare industry, and so we need to fix it, and we need to come together and with some new solutions.
So along those lines, I mean, you know, how do we as a country, right, regardless of what side of the aisle your beliefs fall on, right? I think we all have some common beliefs that we should be well, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We should be well. We should take care of one another, right? We shouldn't put toxic food in people's bodies. We shouldn't put toxic chemical. I think there's some, you know, we shouldn't be dumping plastic in oceans. Not that we do a whole lot of it, but what can we do about it? So like what's happening on the Hill right now across aisle borders? Or what can my tribe know to do to empower those changes happening on the Hill at the government level?
Well, we have to get involved. I mean, my great fear today, because it's so noisy, it's so vicious, there's just so much every single day coming from the political system that people check out. And, you know, I worry about that because who normally checks out are the people who, you know, they know what's going on. They probably are focused on solutions that they know would help address some of those issues that we're not even talking to each other. We're talking past each other. No one's listening. So to any extent where people can be engaged and then engaged in the process and then push these initiatives around transparency, these issues around healthy food, issues around preventative health care, you know, social and emotional learning in our schools. We're actually teaching kids how to kind of interact with each other, how to talk to each other.
You mean outside of Facebook and Twitter and text messaging?
Primarily, I would hope, but even
yeah.
even how to deal with that, you know, and not like, would you say that to somebody face to face, or would you just do it on Twitter? I know the answer to that.
Yeah. Twitter muscles.
Yeah, totally. You know, and you see it all the time, and so we have to intentionally engage in a compassionate way and say, hey, look, it's okay. We're supposed to care about each other. We've got to love each other. Don't always have to like each other, which is what I tell my 2 teenage kids.
Yeah, sure.
But you got to love each other and you got to care about each other.
Something that I always appreciated is your stance on really helping our veterans, right? I'm on the board of a really cool startup nonprofit in Michigan where we're doing, it's called Veterans in Crisis, where we're meeting the needs of veterans because we're in a community, especially the rural communities, where the VA is just, you know, Private Baxter that lives in our region usually has to travel 3, 4, 5 hours to Saginaw to get any type of service. So we're making some really cool strides to make some changes there. But on the food front, right? Like, talk a little bit, about what your office and your constituents are doing right now to create change in the VA around food, because I think this is like so awesome. So kind of fill my tribe in a little bit on that.
Yeah, so we're doing a couple things with the VA. One is we want to promote more whole health. What they call it in the VA is access to some of these opportunities with mindfulness-based stress reduction or transcendental meditation or acupuncture or yoga, things that have really been shown to help heal these vets. And when there's a vet center, a hospital that offers those services, they're packed. Like, you can't get in.
So true.
It's just, they just gravitate towards them because it's not a pharmaceutical, it's not a drug they need, it's non-pharmacological, and it really helps heal them. And you see them go from 15 or 20 meds down to, maybe 2 or 3. And I think food's a big part of that too, and training veteran doctors at the VA to really prescribe food as medicine, and make sure vets understand that this does have something to do with depression. Your food, your diet does have something to do with how you feel every single day.
Are you getting pushback on those? This is, this is normal, right? Yeah. But to many, this is really not normal. So what are your challenges? Are you getting pushback from the VA? From where are you seeing the roadblocks right now in actually moving the ball?
Yeah, the VA really is, in some instances, we have a new secretary now, but the old secretary of the VA was very attuned to this. They have been pushing a patient-centered care for about, I'd say, 10, maybe 8 to 10 years now. I don't know if it's been that long, I guess 8 years now, where they really are trying to have the vet be the focus. And there's a mindful approach to this whole thing. And so when a vet now walks in, their goal is to have another vet right there to meet them. So you're not wandering into a VA. You're actually, first person you meet is going to be a veteran. And then they're going to take you through the system and say, here's your options. You may want to go down this road. You may want to go integrative health. You may want to go functional medicine. How do we treat the whole vet, not just say, okay, here's the symptom, here, we're going to write a prescription, and the next thing you know, you got a vet that's on 15 different prescriptions because they take one and that has its side effects, so we got to give you another one before you know it. You're all the way down the road. And so the pushback is almost just the inertia, and a lot of people who aren't willing to think creatively and have some imagination on how we solve some of these problems.
So my final piece, right, was on the chemical industry. We're right now in northern Michigan, one of the largest chemical manufacturers, and usually the chemical guy is the bad guy, right? Especially in the health and wellness space. But we really pride ourselves on being really on the cutting edge of green chemistry. And I know your stance, and it's really fantastic on food and the chemicals that we don't put in our bodies because of chemicals that are allowed to be put on subsidized crazy food. But talk to me a little bit about, just for a few seconds here, on your position on the chemical industry, right? So, there's not a lot of oversight, in food manufacturing. There's a bunch, right? There's USDA, FDA, people are really paying attention on food. But in the chemical industry, it's the good old boys club, and it's self-governance. And I think there needs to be some change there. So kind of, what's your position on reforming the chemical manufacturing industry, if at all?
Well, I think you need some oversight, and you need, I don't think we do quite as good of a job as we probably should with food, because we see a lot of recalls and we do see a lot of people getting sick. But with the chemical industry, you're exactly right. Right now, the government is almost a subsidiary of the chemical industry, because they look past, there's no transparency, there's no understanding or desire to really understand what are the long-term effects of some of these chemicals that are being used in some of these products. And I think we have an obligation as the public, all of us coming together, saying, hey, look, we want you to make money, we want people to have a profit and hire people and all the rest, but you can't do it at the expense of the health of the American people.
Yeah. Well, in closing, something, and I'm just curious, I believe, not only do we need to vote for representation, right, for people that are aligned with our core beliefs, but I think one of the more powerful mechanisms, we vote every day with our dollars, right? We make a conscious decision every day with every nickel of our investment, whether it's, again, organic spinach is now price comparative with regular spinach. It's not because big agriculture, it's about philanthropy.
Yeah.
The market demanded it, industry pivoted, and now they can create it at a value point. So I'm a big proponent of voting with our dollars. Not only great representation,
right,
but making conscious decisions with every one of our nickels, because businesses like mine will have to pivot and adjust if the market tells us.
Right.
So
amen.
Amen. Good stuff. Congressman, thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Really appreciate
changing this world. And
thanks for what you're doing, because I think we don't talk often enough, and I say this as a Democrat, we don't talk often enough about the importance of CEOs and business people who take risks and take out a second mortgage on their home or get loans from the banks, and you're trying to do good and then have an impact in the world. And I think we need to, our systems, our tax system and our governmental systems need to reward those businesses that understand that there's a moral obligation too as a business, because back in the day businesses used to care about not just their customer but their workers, the environment, their community, and it's shifted to what's the next quarter profits, and whatever I can do to make sure that's as high as it could be, that's what we do. And so kudos to you.
Thank you much. Thank you very much. All right. Bless you, man.
Okay, brother.